Tim. Let's see. Kathleen, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Blanco,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Seifert.
Here.
Chair Dickerson.
Here. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the Planning Commission minutes of November 16th. Has everyone had a chance to read them? And is there any modifications that need to be made, or do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of the 16th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We have a special item that is not on the agenda. As most of you know, Commissioner Hernandez won her seat to be a city council member, and this is going to be her last time with us as a planning commissioner. So, in appreciation for that,
Oh, wow.
we have a certificate of appreciation in appreciation of her loyal and dedicated service for the residents of Santa Maria as planning commissioner from January 2015 to December 2022. We extend our very best wishes for many years of health, happiness, and prosperity bestowed the 7th day of December 2022 by staff and by all your peers on this dais. I do want to say that it is going to be it's going to be a loss to us, but absolutely a gain for our city. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I will miss talking about sidewalks and walkability for a half hour. But I am glad to be moving to the city council, and I'm just grateful for the time that I've spent on the planning commission. I've had a lot of fun doing it and serving the city of Santa Maria as a planning commissioner. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yes.
You mean Robert? That's like, who the hell is Lori talking about?
Thank you.
Dana, do you have some words about the public comment period and Zoom and whatnot?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. This is Dana Eady, the Planning Manager. If you are on Zoom and you wish to comment on an agenda item, please use the raised hand icon on the Zoom platform. Once you are recognized, you will then be unmuted and allowed to comment on the business at hand in the order received. The maximum comment time is 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. And if you're calling in on Zoom and you wish to be acknowledged, please raise your hand by dialing *9 and then identify yourself when unmuted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. We will start off with the public comment period. Each member of the audience may address the commission on any subject within the commission's business. Each member of the audience and each subject is limited to discussions of 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. These are for items not already on the agenda. So if there's anybody that would like to speak on items not on the agenda, raise your hand or let us know through Zoom. No?
There's no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is approved with one motion. These items are read only on request of commission members. Should anyone, including members of the public, wish to discuss or disapprove any item, it must be dropped from the blanket motion and considered as a separate item. So there is a single item, continued item, Oakley Court Apartment Permit Amendment at 800 block of South Oakley. It is my understanding that we're going to postpone this one. Is that correct?
Yes, we have received a request to continue this item to the second meeting in January, which is, I believe, January 18th.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion for that, Heather? All right, can we hear a motion?
Yes, I move that we continue item 1, Oakley Court Apartments Permit Amendment at 800 block of South Oakley Court to January 18th.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's see, moving on to item number 2. Dana, do you have something about that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Dickerson and Commissioners. I actually live within 500 feet of this site, so I'm going to recuse as staff and wait out in the hall until the item is completed. And so in my absence, Frank Albro, our principal planner, is going to sit here and assist, and I will be back. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll give you a call as soon as we're done. All right, Skylight Homes, tentative track map and plan development permit at 3170 Santa Maria Way. Frank, we hear from you? Oh,
I'll be giving a presentation.
okay.
Yeah, so I'm Cody Graybell, Senior Planner of the city. I just want to make sure everyone can hear in the back and with a larger crowd. How's the volume back there? Good. Okay, awesome. So this item is a plan development permit and a vesting tentative parcel, track map, and is proposing 49 affordable single-family residential units and also a 50 parcel subdivision at 3170 Santa Maria Way. And the project's been presented a couple times to the Planning Commission and the public, including at a study session on November 17th, and then also at a subdivision committee meeting on November 29th. And the project is a people self-help housing development, and the applicant is in attendance tonight. So the project is in the southeastern portion of the city, and it is between Cobalt Lane and Holly Oak Lane to the north and south, and South Caselli Way and Santa Maria Way to the east and west. And this area of the city has been developed primarily with residential development. So to the north of the site is the Rolling Hills subdivision, and to the west of the site, we have the Sunrise Hills single-family homes residential subdivision. And then to the south is a mobile home park, the Delcello mobile homes. And then to the west, across Santa Maria Way, is the Waller Park subdivision. And city staff did review and approve a general plan amendment and zone change last year, and that was approved by the city council. And this project tonight is directly related to that effort. So the zoning of the site is PDR1, which is planned development, single-family residential. And the proposed density is below the maximum allowable of 8 dwelling units an acre. And there's single-family residential zoning to the north and to the west of the site, and then to the south, or the east, excuse me, and then to the south and west, this is actually the county. And the project site was formerly used as a drive-in movie theater and is currently vacant, and it's 9 acres in size. And part of this development would remove most of the trees and all the theater equipment. So this is facing the site from the east, if you're on Santa Maria Way. And I'd just like to note that the row of trees shown here is not part of the project site, and it would remain. So next, I'm going to go over the site plan briefly. So the project's proposing 49 single-family residences. They each have their own lot. Please check the microphone. It's on. It's on.
Okay, is it sound coming into the room here? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, 49 single-family residences, and they each have their own lot, and then there'd be one extra lot to make 50 lots. And that extra lot would be for the roads, the infrastructure, and then the drainage basin. That would be right here on Santa Maria Way. And each of the buildings would be 1 story, and there's going to be 3 different building types we'll look at in the upcoming slides. And the units would range in size from 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, and it's going to be a mix of 3 and 4 bedroom units with 2 bathrooms. And each of the residences has been designed to meet the underlining zoning the R1 zone standards. And public site access would be from Santa Maria Way into and out of the site here. And there'd be a 40-foot driveway with two-way in-out from Santa Maria Way. And there also is pedestrian and secondary emergency access proposed. So that's shown here in this highlighted section between lots 16 and 17. And then as a condition of approval, a bus turnout and shelter will be required next to the drainage basin on Santa Maria Way. So here's the map. It's a 9-acre site that would be split into 50 lots, and they'd range in size from 5 to 9,000 square feet. And some of the lots are slightly smaller than the minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. So due to that, the city council would have to consider and approve this project. So tonight will be a recommendation to the city council. And staff did look at the private streets proposed, and we have confirmed that there is adequate space for on-street parking. So this is just looking a little closer at the secondary emergency access and pedestrian gate that's proposed. And essentially what it would do is just continue along the block wall that's existing. It wouldn't alter the height of the wall at all. And the vehicular access is going to be limited to the emergency responders only in the city, mainly the fire department. And then there's a pedestrian gate proposed, which is shown here. And that gate will encourage walking on residential streets for the neighbors. So staff does support this design because it increases emergency access, and it also allows neighbors that are walking in the area to utilize residential streets instead of having to use the busier Santa Maria Way. And here's just the perimeter walls and the fencing that's proposed. So the site would be enclosed with a 6-foot concrete wall. So that's this blue area that's shown. And then there's 6-foot fencing between each of the homes shown in this yellow areas here and here. So the floor plans haven't changed at all since the study session. There's still the 3 and 4 bedroom options. They each still have their own 2-car garage, as well as covered porch areas and laundry rooms, and each of the laundry rooms would be separated from the garages. And the elevations haven't changed at all since study session. They're still 1 story. They're 18 feet, which is under the maximum height. And they're still primarily Spanish mission style architecture. Earth tone varieties of paint schemes proposed, and building materials include cement plaster walls, trim detailing at the windows and doors, and then decorative garages, and roofing is still S-tile. So these are just a couple more elevations, and again, we've got no changes since study session. And landscaping is proposed on each lot. And there are 5 street trees on the project frontage, and then there'd be 85 trees within the site. And there is an increased landscape focused on Santa Maria Way here and here, just to help buffer the site a little bit from the secondary arterial. And at the detention basin, there has been some amenities added, which include a walking path, benches, and pet waste stations. So environmental review was completed with the earlier effort during the general plan amendment and zone change in 2021. And there's been no new environmental impacts, scope changes, or information that this project's brought forward that would require a new CEQA document. And the required mitigation measures have reduced all the potential impacts to less than significant. And a traffic study was provided for that component of the project, and it concluded that the street network would operate at acceptable levels of service, so no further environmental review is required. And before the recommendation, staff did receive a letter that we just wanted to read into the record that expressed some concern from a neighboring subdivision about the project prior to tonight's meeting. And we've looked at it closely, and the applicant has as well, so we're aware of the concerns, and we've addressed each of the items. And in conclusion, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following actions by resolution. We recommend that the City Council approve vesting tentative tract map TR 2022-0005, and then by motion, recommend the City Council approve Plan Development Permit PD 2022-0006. That concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is in attendance and available tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cody. Before we get the applicant's presentation, I wanted to ask for any disclosure by commissioners of communication, yes, ex parte communication with the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. I had a brief discussion with Lori tomorrow.
I did not have.
I did not. No. Thank you very much. Can we hear from the applicant? And if you give your name and address of the business, please, for the record.
Cheryl Flores, People Self-Help Housing. I reside in San Luis Obispo. It's good to see you all again tonight after a little over a year ago. We met previously with the zone change. I think staff did an excellent job presenting it, so I do not have any more fancy slides to show you. A couple things I would like to point out. It was great to have the input from the study session, from talking to some of the neighbors, and we did a little more research. I know that parking has been a concern, and I want to point out that each house has 4 parking places, 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. There's parking on both sides of the street. We counted that there will be at least 79 20-foot-long parking spaces. So that's about 5.5 parking spaces per house. So I think we're adequate there. There's been other further discussions and things, and we're trying to work with the neighbors to accommodate them. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns you have tonight.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Yes, I do have a question about the eucalyptus trees that we had a concern about. Is there a plan to remove those before you start, or maintain them, trim them? What is the plan for the eucalyptus trees?
One of the neighbors mentioned it to me at the study session, and so we are looking into having some of them trimmed. That might be a hazard, and we won't be removing them until we're able to start on the project, but we certainly want to address anything that might be a hazard ahead of time.
Thank you.
Further questions of the applicant at this time? No? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and open the meeting to the public, and we'll start with written communications. We do have written communications, yes, no?
Chair, members of the commission, the only written communication was the email that Cody had already mentioned.
Okay, great. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to public comment. I do have a number of public comment slips, so we will get through these. You will have 3 minutes to talk, and Kathleen will be the person who is doing that. So let's start off with Leanne Pirelli-Minetti. And if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Leanne Pirelli-Minetti, 3079 Rod Drive. Let's see. I just deleted my note. There we go. I'm a homeschooling mom. I have 2 elementary-aged children in our home, and part of why we chose the neighborhood and the Rolling Hills was because of the one-way in, one-way out, lots of limited traffic. We have cul-de-sacs at the end of each road, so it's very safe for my children to be outside playing in the front yard, to ride their bikes. We go on walks, and I'm really concerned about the pedestrian access way. I'd like to keep our neighborhood and the new development completely separate. That way it will minimize other neighbors coming in, people parking there, and then walking into that development, just added traffic, added people, so that my kids continue to have the confidence and the safety to be out in the front yard, walk to the mailbox, et cetera, without any concern of strangers coming through. So I oppose that, and I'm asking you to keep it completely separate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robert Viadella. Once again, sir, you'll have 3 minutes. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
So my name is Robert Viadella. I'm in right on the corner of Koval and Diane. And one of the things that was brought up before, as just presented too, was the pedestrian access from the new development into our area. And I noticed that the drawing that was just shown on that gate, that fire gate or fire access gate. That gate is shown much larger than the original drawings show. I mean, all there was space was for a pedestrian walkway through there, not for a fire truck to get through there. So I don't know what the plan is at this point. I assume that this is supposed to be at the northeastern end of the development, and it connects to Diane Drive. Is that assumption correct? In the past, there was a road that went through there for access, but the way the design is now, it's just a pedestrian pathway. And again, I'm concerned about the pedestrian pathway too. The discussion about parking has been brought up before. That's also our concern because I'm concerned personally that people will, if that gate is open just for pedestrians, when they get congested in their development with smaller streets, they're going to look for other places to park. We know this has happened before when the drive-in gets packed on these weekends. They were parking on Rod quite often. So that's a concern. So primarily it's the access and the fire safety. Another thing is, what's the plan for safety at the entrance and exit to this? I mean, this is going to be another 49 houses. We've got problems as it is in Sunrise Hills with coming in and out of that property with no lights. It's just you can wait and wait and wait, and finally you get a chance to take a left-hand turn. This is going to be the same problem, and just like the Northman property down the way from us. So that's what my concern is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madalena Nieto? And once again, if you could state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Madalena. I'm a native of Santa Maria. I want to first thank you for all you do to address our concerns and implement solutions for better communities. I'm here tonight to represent Rolling Hills Estates. I'd like to acknowledge my wonderful neighbors by having those in attendance please stand briefly. Thank you. The track map for People's Self-Help Housing demonstrates just how condensed 49 homes sit on 8.89 acres. Their narrow streets clearly show insufficient street parking, especially where driveways, fire hydrants, and waste disposal bins do not allow for any parking. Just looking at the map, the street space between each driveway is exceptionally tight. Not to mention, there is no room for 4 vehicles because, as we know, a lot of people self-help housing are converted into rooms, and they sometimes add up to 2 stories. Let's not repeat the parking problems of Montiavo Apartments and its surrounding neighbors. The new proposed and completely opposed walkway between People's Self-Help Housing and Rolling Hills on Diane Drive contributes to the problems because it allows open access for PSHS residents to park on our cul-de-sac and access the walkway to and from their community. This leaves a potential for blocking residential driveways, loitering, and illegal activities. The best solution is to completely close off access between our communities, scale back the number of homes built, resulting in less crowding, less traffic, and better parking. We request that Rolling Hills Estate remains a separate and private entity from People's Self-Help Housing. The cul-de-sac on Diane Drive should not serve as a roadway, a walkway, pathway, or a gateway for People's Self-Help Housing. We also request that a matching barrier wall be added to the outer perimeter of the south end basin on Rod Drive as it is on the north end. Transportation engineers conducted a traffic analysis and addressed parking issues in a letter that was sent to the city and dated June 11, 2019, at which time they also said that the study that was given for Dauphin did have errors and was based on outdated information. At which time it was noted that Dolphin Street can only store 5 cars at a given time. The new development North Bend project was given approval to share Dolphin with our neighbors. If People Self-Help Housing is presenting the same no left turn access, and Dolphin is the only street available for left turns, what's to stop People Self-Help Housing from flipping U-turns on Dolphin so that they too can turn a left on Santa Maria Way? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you sticking to the time. Monica Lotz.
Hi, good evening. My name is Monica Lotz, and I live at 775 Koval Lane, up at the top by Diane and Koval. I run a daycare in my home, and it's a concern to me to have residential access between People Self-Help Housing and the Rolling Hills Estates. We, too, I've lived there for 31 years, and we only have one access in and one access out. There's no need to have, for emergency vehicles, there's no need to have anything but a one access in for People Self-Help Housing for emergency vehicles in and emergency vehicles out. The pathway between People Self-Help Housing and Rolling Hills is a big concern, because if they're allowed to park in our neighborhood and walk to and from their neighborhoods, it's going to be a problem, going to be a serious problem. And it's a security problem. It's just not good. It just isn't. So, I mean, that's really all I have to say. It's a concern for me because I have little people in my home, and I don't know. It's a concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary Newhall. Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gary Newhall. I reside at 3148 Rod Drive. And we're original owners. We've been there coming up on 28 years. So we've watched, as my friends, when we bought the house, stated that when they saw the drive-in behind us, that within a year it would be gone. 28 years later, we're seeing a lot of changes, which happens. I really had three items, and I think one was addressed in the report that was handed out. But the first one is, I am one of the properties that's concerned about the eucalyptus trees. They're enormous. There's really only 2 properties, 3148 and 3142 Rod Drive, that are impacted. It's not like it's not like the whole line is an issue. And I'm just hoping, People Self-Help Housing, along with the city, can work in conjunction just to make sure that those are addressed, because they could come onto our roofs. My next door neighbor has a brand new trailer that's sitting behind the gates, so there is a liability exposure. So if that is addressed, I would be thrilled. The second one really is kind of a question. I was concerned that people exiting the new People Self-Help Housing unit wouldn't be allowed to turn left, coming up onto Santa Maria, heading towards Bradley and 101. Based on what I see in this report, it looks like they will be able to do that. And if that's the case, that's great. I just think with everything that's happening on Santa Maria Way, and they've got 500 additional units going in, there's going to be a lot more traffic going through. And I just also wanted to take the opportunity to state that I also support keeping Dion Drive closed. I don't feel providing additional access point to the development is going to be a positive thing. I just see potential for negatives. So anyway, just wanted to take my time to address those 3 items. As my wife says, don't babble, so I'm done.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Stephanie Foster. Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Dr. Stephanie Foster, and I live at 734 Richmond Court. I'm actually on the other side of Gary. So, I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac, right by the cement wall. And my main 2 points, one is that I am concerned about the tree removal as well, and so I would love to hear more about the safety impacts on that. The trees actually blow over my fence, and I'm regularly covered in leaves from the trees. So that removal of those not only provides a safety and a clutter into my neighborhood, but also there's a lot of noise reduction that comes from that. I moved in 2000, and back in the heyday of the drive-in movie theater, and the trees did provide a nice safety net for us so that we didn't have to actually hear every single movie that was played. I'm really concerned that I'm going to get to hear every single conversation on the other side of that cement wall. My second concern is that I do operate a business as well out of my home. I am an occupational therapist and I work with handicapped children, and I'm concerned for their safety as well. We have a very quiet, close-knit neighborhood, and the addition of traffic on Deanne will cause more walkers, more runners throughout the neighborhood, causing a safety and traffic concern for us. So I strongly oppose the access to the gate, and I strongly oppose taking down the trees completely, and I wish for Rolling Hills to remain a separate entity as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had another slip, late slip, Ms. Viadella. Was it for this agenda item, or was it for the next one? This one? All right, then why don't you come on up?
I'm Donna Viadella, and I live at 784 Koval Lane. And as this gentleman here had said that the gate, open gate, would provide for the new addition to the people living there to come and walk safely through our neighborhood and their neighborhood as well. Well, I want to say something, that we've been our own entity for a long, long time, over 20-some years, and that's what we had to do, is just walk in our little neighborhood, and it's been fine. So you have a circular neighborhood that should be fine too. What we want is that you have to understand, we've been here for a long time. We've been our own entity. Now we've opened up with the other family housing, and then this one too. We're like in the middle of everything. It is very scary, as it is just thinking of traffic on Santa Maria Way with all the new development that's happening. We're going to have DMV, everything. It's chaos. It's really scary for us to digest all this, to feel safe even getting out of our own neighborhoods. Then we just have to deal with more people. We just would like to be our own entity. We feel safer that way, and that's big. And as far as walking their neighborhood, they'll be doing the same thing that we've done for over 20 years in our neighborhood. We've never had a complaint. If you want to go out, what I suggest is that on Santa Maria Way, they finish the sidewalks. That's it, so you're not walking in all that sandy areas to hit another sidewalk area. That would cure that safety issue right there. So I'm just saying, thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time here. Any rebuttals from People's Self-Help Housing?
Well, it does seem apparent that the neighborhood does not want the pedestrian access. Well, personally, we think it would be good for children and adults to have access. We're willing to go with whatever is best for the community there. So we certainly, and it could be that we put in the gate, but the gate's left locked until at some point in later time, the opinion changes. That could possibly be done. We brought up the trees. We definitely want to take care of any safety issues. Another person mentioned they want some of the trees left because they don't want the sound to pass through. There will be families will be putting some trees in their backyard, there'll be trees in the front yard, but the trees will be much smaller initially than the tall eucalyptuses that are there. But the sounds generated in homes would be similar to what's generated at the homes in their neighborhood. So, and it won't be like, the sound from a drive-in theater, so I hope that, would be fine over time. Let's see. I'm not sure where sidewalks are in Santa Maria Way, but I know we're improving in front of our facility as far as walking on Santa Maria Way, but I'm sure there's very many gaps where property hasn't been developed. I think I've addressed everything. I'm happy to address anything else that I haven't.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and have questions by, yes, Heather.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr.
That's all
Chair. I don't know that we checked on Zoom. If we
Oh,
could have planning
you're
check on
absolutely right.
Zoom and
I'm
let us
sorry.
know if there's any public comment.
Thank you, Heather. This is the time for the attendees on Zoom. If you would like to speak or contribute to the conversation, if you would, please raise your hand by using the raise the hand icon, and we can recognize you. If you're using a cell phone, please press *9. I do not see the attendees on Zoom wishing to speak.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Heather. Any questions by commission members of either the public or of the applicant? Commissioner Seifert.
Thank you, Chair. Mark, so the condition on the pedestrian gate, what, is that just something they brought up, or is that something that we have in our code? What do we got going on there?
So Chair Dickerson, Commissioner Seifert, the pedestrian pathway, I think, is a request from staff to encourage neighborhood access, neighborhood feelings, the pedestrian walkability of neighborhoods. I don't think it is a requirement, but that I will defer to Community Development Department. That is outside my department.
Chair, Commissioner Seifert, our policy is to have walkability through neighborhoods. This is a public area. The existing streets are public streets. Northman is public streets as well. These streets in this development will be private, but our thinking and our strategy and policy is to try to do things to increase walkability, to reduce the reliance on automobiles, and that means subdivisions will be connected with paths and pedestrian paths through. This subdivision is smaller. This proposed subdivision is smaller. The result of not having through passage at that location may not be as critical as might be in some other larger subdivisions. However, this is the staff's policy. It goes with current thinking on reducing vehicle miles traveled and reducing air quality impacts by allowing people to walk and bike freely through the community.
If the decision was made that we did not want to have that gate, what are the ramifications there?
The significance, there would be no significant environmental impacts because of the small size of this subdivision. It would simply be social impacts between neighbors. You might have kids having to walk out onto Santa Maria Way to visit kids in the next neighborhood, those sorts of things. But it's simply a policy. It's not a mandate. And therefore, it is up to the commission if they would like to rule whether or not that gate, the pedestrian gate, should exist. I will comment that the fire gate, the emergency access gate, is a must. That's a requirement by our
That was my
fire
next
department.
question. I believe it is a requirement. Yes. Is there any different kind of gates configurations, or do we have just like one design for that gate, or?
The configuration, are you speaking of the fire gate or the pedestrian gate?
you know, the fire gate, right now it's shown as a see-through gate. I'm guessing it's going to be minimum 12 feet, probably bigger, to get a fire truck through.
Correct.
Is there a way to put slats on there or anything? Is there any, do we have discretion as to what the gate looks like?
Yes, yes, you do. And I should mention for the audience and for the commission members, the mention of 12 feet was the width of the gate, not the height. The height of the gate is 6 feet.
Thank you, yes. Mark, are you the sidewalk guy?
Commissioner Siever, sidewalk guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Official title.
So explain to me about the sidewalks on Santa Maria Way. We have the Northern project, we have this project, there's the Rolling Hills. Apparently, they weren't required to extend their sidewalks to this subdivision. And I'm guessing we're not going to be requiring this subdivision to connect sidewalks to another subdivision. So is there any foreseeable future of sidewalks on Santa Maria Way?
So Commissioner Siever, this subdivision or proposed subdivision is at the southern end of the city of Santa Maria limits. There is proposed frontage improvements along the entire frontage of Santa Maria Way, which would have curb gutter sidewalk and a bus turnout. On the northern end of this property, it goes to the Rolling Hills Estates, which has existing curb gutter sidewalk from its southern property line to the northern property line. At that point, the sidewalk ends and the Northman project would begin, the frontage on Santa Maria Way. The Northern project is conditioned to install curb gutter sidewalk from its southern property line to the northern property line, which would make a continuous sidewalk from the southern city limits to Valley Christian Academy, which has curb gutter and sidewalk.
So we will have a continuous sidewalk?
Correct.
Is there a time frame on that?
Northman is currently under construction. I would anticipate those frontage improvements to be constructed within the year.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hernandez? No? Commissioner Blanco?
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Question on maybe the layout here of lot 17 and 18, which is at that corner. You know, it's kind of an odd configuration. I know the subdivision committee has reviewed it, but it appears that that's going to be pretty challenging for vehicles to get in and out of those lots. Was there any discussion or any thinking about that configuration? It's just a little bit odd and it looks like it's going to be pretty challenging. So I don't know if there's any feedback that would help me understand kind of the access there.
Chair, members of the commission, that access was drawn up in that fashion to show the access through for the emergency access, which is adjacent to that lot. When the city staff receives the plot plans, which are, if the subdivision is approved, if this project is approved, that's part of the building permit process. We can double check the turning radius and the driveway approach at that time. My opinion is that looking at that map, there is sufficient room and sufficient turning. There may need to be a Y configuration where the north to south portion of the driveway extends a little bit further north to aid some three-point turning movements. But I believe there's sufficient room in that front yard to accommodate a driveway to allow access to the garage.
I guess the reason I mentioned that is just because, you know, we're at the tentative map phase and we're trying to get the map approved, and it seems like a pretty important issue to flush out. I'd hate for those lots to have, you know, access that really doesn't, you know, can't accommodate them. So it's just a little bit odd. It looks like it's going to be pretty challenging to me. So I don't know if there's, you know, maybe comments from engineering or even Tim on, I know you're on the subdivision committee, Tim, if there was any discussion about access to those lots.
Thank you, Commissioner Blanco. We didn't have any discussion on that, but just looking at it, it's very similar to what we call a swing driveway, when the garage isn't straight in off the street, but sideways. And it's fairly common, depending on the subdivision. Like was stated, if they did extend that for a three-point turnaround, I don't see a real issue as far as the drive approach. And as a matter of fact, it will probably give them more parking because they're going to have more concrete on the property. So I don't see it as a huge problem now, but I certainly hear you.
Chair, members of the commission, there's also the possibility that 1R model seems to be the longest model. The 4R that's just to the south of it seems to be a little bit shorter, but maybe a little bit wider. There may be opportunity to switch models and get a little bit more driveway space there. But again, those are things that staff regularly deals with at the plot plan stage, at the building permit stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know these are conceptual, but could they detach that garage and move it west? Or, I'm sorry, it'd be, west.
Yes, it might be a possibility to detach the garage and put it, so you drive directly into it. We could look at those things, as Mr. Albro said, when we're developing the plot plans. But our engineer, civil engineer, architect looked at it. It's at least a 16-foot approach entering into that lot and then turning into the driveway. So, and we probably would do somewhat of a T so that the car could back up and then come forward out of the drive instead of having to back onto the street.
Chair, members of the commission, if I could add, another possibility might be to make that a side entry garage, flip the garage door so it's on the south side of the house, and move the whole assembly forward, so you'd have more of a traditional straight-in driveway to the garage. That may be another possibility to address any kind of maneuver issue.
So in essence, both the applicant and staff have heard the concerns of Commissioner Blanco, and we'll work through the issues to make sure that they're taken care of. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Further question? No? Okay. Then let's go ahead and close the public hearing. And any further discussions, decision items by commission? Commissioner Seifert, why don't you start it off?
Thank you, Chair. I think we heard tonight that one of the biggest issues is the access through the subdivisions. And I, for one, I don't like blocks of tracks and everybody being in their own little subdivision, but I certainly wouldn't impose that upon these neighbors. They've been fairly clear that they do not want any access. I think we've determined that the pedestrian access is not something that's mandatory, so that we could easily vote to not include that. The fire access is definitely a requirement, and we could do something with the gate to make it less visible, I guess, to look through. We've addressed the yew trees. And actually, thank you very much for addressing the situation in the retention basin and getting some benches and some walkway and some area in there like we asked. Again, as far as traffic, I've always been an advocate of lights on this Santa Maria Way. I think the traffic goes way too fast for what we're asking here, for these people turning out on that street. And I would hope that in the future we could somehow or another get this traffic slowed down. If we would have put the traffic light at the Northam project, that would have slowed this traffic down. If we put a light here, that would slow down the Northam project. But we still haven't come to the nexus of where we need to add a light on this street. I can't see where we ever will with these subdivisions. So that's still a concern of mine. I think it's a big concern. The people on that street are doing 55, 65 miles an hour, And turning into that kind of traffic on a daily basis really does wear on you. And you worry about yourselves and your family. It is a very big safety issue, in my opinion. Other than that, I think that it's a decent design. I think I can support the project with the conditions that we've talked about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes, I like the project. I think it's going to bring very much needed housing. I do understand the access. It is a public safety issue, and when we start to look at the public safety of this community, I think that's the first thing and most important thing we need to look at. And so when balancing the accessibility, being told by staff that it's not critical because it's a small neighborhood, I think public safety outweighs that. So I would support this being closed off and not having access, and conditioning that the trees at 3148 and 3142 Rod Drive be maintained, or that they start to be maintained 45 days after approval, so that we can address the trees and not necessarily remove them, because I do understand that they create a buffer. But we do want to make and improve the quality of life. I think the residents are not saying they're opposed to this project. They just want to maintain the quality of life that they have. And I am in support of this project, with it not having the gate and having a condition to maintain the trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Blanco?
Yeah, I think it's a good project as well. You know, just my concerns that I brought up about the lots, if those can get figured out, I'd hate for those lots to have problems later on. So I'd look for that solution with staff, working with people self-help housing. Obviously, we got to support safety as far as the fire access. And so if there's anything that we can do to make that access a little bit more aesthetic, if you will, I would support that. Frankly, I'm a little bit on the fence with the pedestrian access situation. You know, I think we've talked about in the past not really excluding people or not having enclosed developments. Let's make things a little bit more open. We've had projects like that where we've discussed that in other locations, and I think, you know, segregating ourselves between communities, I don't think is what we really need or want. I don't, you know, if it ended up being very problematic, I think people's self-help housing could come back and mitigate that. I believe that. So why not start off with some connectivity there? You know, I think about, you know, communities that want to interact, and now we're trying to close them off. Certainly don't want any safety issues, but I don't see how that right away is a safety issue. You know, think about kids wanting to get over, maybe trick or treat or do anything in other communities, and there's no, you know, you don't want to walk down Santa Maria Way, even if there's a sidewalk, really, why go out there? So I'm sort of on the fence, but I tend to support some connection there, with the caveat that if it was very problematic, that we could, there'd be some recourse for communities. So, yeah, otherwise, I think the project's very good.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I like the project. As I mentioned in the study session, access is not really a big issue for me. I do tend to agree with Commissioner Blanco a little bit. You have houses that are being built now on the north side of this property, I'm sorry, of the adjacent subdivision, and you don't know who's going to move in there. You know, it's going to be connected. You don't know who's going to move in here. So I can see it both ways, but for me, it's not an issue. I like the project.
Great. Thank you very much. I like the project as well. I do, I understand both sides of the argument regarding the pedestrian access. I understand the community having lived as they have, isolated and quiet, and there's concern that they're going to have an impact to their quality of life. I do understand that. I do understand also the argument that that we do need to open these sorts of things up so then people can interact with one another. So it's a tough call, but but the reality is it's not something I'm going to stand on to deny the project or to anger the adjoining community with. So I would certainly I would support eliminating the pedestrian access. We do have the safety access, obviously, for the fire and police and whatnot, and if we can make that a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, that's fine. I do not necessarily think that we need to make that gate any more than the 6 feet that it's at. And then, of course, we've already, talked about and dealt with the trees. So, so if we can get a resolution and a motion that incorporates those, I would certainly be willing to
Okay.
vote for that.
I move that by resolution, we recommend that the city council approve vesting tentative tract map TR 2022-0005
With the modifications discussed?
with the modifications as discussed.
I'm
Heather?
sorry to interrupt. If I could just, I want to nail it down just a little more. So the modifications would be to eliminate the pedestrian access.
Yes.
The other condition you mentioned regarding the eucalyptus trees.
To maintain the eucalyptus trees within 45 days of approval.
And I would just clarify that would be within 45 days of approval by the city council.
Yes.
If that date works for planning.
That
And we don't
should-
usually tie to that. We usually tie to, grading permits or this or that. But I think we can do that if that works for you.
I do think that that's possible. We can
Okay.
confirm with the applicant if that would be necessary.
It will work fine to have 45 days after city council approval of the project, but I'd like to specify that it be those 2 trees located by that 2 address, and that we do not have to necessarily trim all 93 eucalyptus trees on the site unless they present a danger to someone else.
Correct.
Commissioner Hernandez, it'd be limited to the 2 trees, I believe on the record, someone said the 2 lots.
3148 and 3142 Rod Drive.
Great. So those are the only 2 that we've specified that, okay?
Yes.
We good? Heather? All right. I need a second.
I second the resolution.
Kathleen?
Roll call.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco.
Aye.
Chair Dickerson.
Aye. We need a motion.
I move that we recommend that the city council approve plan development permit PD 2022-0006.
And would we be putting those conditions also on the PD, Mr. Albrow?
We could,
I think we will.
my recommendation is to put them into both the plan
Yeah,
development
we'll-
permit and subdivision.
Before we bring it to the council, we'll modify both because the PD might also talk about that access. So yeah, so would those conditions be for this as well?
Yes, with the 2 conditions.
Second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out and
Thank
voicing
you.
your opinions. We appreciate it.
Chair and members of the commission, staff would like to just take a brief break while we switch
fine.
staff. Thank you.
And it is my understanding that that Commissioner Hernandez will be recusing. So, yeah, why don't we go ahead
Yes,
and
we're
cut her
still on the
loose.
record. If everyone could just keep it down a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and make that now
Okay.
so you can leave?
I will be recusing myself from item 3, which is the Betteravia Place General Plan Amendment, because the applicant is a client of the firm. Thank you.
That's it. That's it. Until she hovers out there and gives us those scowly looks we occasionally get from.
Why are you sending this to
Yeah.
my desk?
well, you know what? She'll have a better one, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same one.
Yeah, that's the same one. She'll have it. See? They get the walnut. Yep, that's it. That's right. Much more posh, much more permanent. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and bring the session back to order. Bless you. We're going to do item number 3, Bataravia Place General Plan Amendment, Zone Change, and Plan Development Permit at the southeast corner of Blosser Road and Carmen Lane. Can we hear from staff? Hey, Carol.
Thank you, Chair Dickerson, members of the commission. My name is Carol Ziesenhenny. I'll be presenting the project tonight. So as previously referenced, there are 3 applications under review by your commission: a general plan amendment and rezone, 2 plan development permits for market rate apartments. This project was presented to the Planning Commission at the November 17th, 2022 study session. So this is an overview of the project site. It's partially separated, but the entire site is outlined in yellow. So it's bounded by Bataravia Road, Blosser Road, Carmen Lane, and Santa Maria Valley Railroad off to the east over here. Western Avenue, just coming through the middle north-south. Dan Blau Drive and Walker Avenue are internal streets. The Bataravia escarpment runs along the north of the property, right along here, along Carmen Lane. And the surrounding land uses include the Santa Maria Police Station, residential neighborhoods, and the Jimenez Elementary School across Carmen Lane to the north, right over here. Avante Apartments was recently approved by the Planning Commission and is located to the west across Blosser Road at the Carmen Lane intersection. The adjacent properties to the southwest of the Bataravia Plaza site are built out with existing office buildings, parking lots, mature landscaping for the CHC administrative offices. So these 2 parcels were not part of the Bataravia Plaza tract development agreement or master plan development permit, but they are being included in tonight's hearing for rezoning. These properties are being incorporated to the project to align with the current office uses and to for the owners to better utilize the property. No development is proposed at this time. It's strictly a rezone for these two properties here along Bataravia Road and Blosser Road. The 57-acre Bataravia Plaza project site was annexed in 1982 and was originally intended for industrial uses, light manufacturing, zoning. Areas to the north were annexed and planned for residential and school. Those are all now built out. The property was rezoned in 2016 to allow for future commercial office apartments and open space uses. A conceptual plan development permit that you can see on the screen here for this project was also approved in 2016, and the tract map, which you'll see in the next slide, was approved in 2018. The entire site has been graded and the roads and infrastructure are under construction. The railroad trail along here is installed already. So this is just another view of the current zoning of the Bataravia Plaza property, and it shows the lot configuration as it was approved by the tract map 6008 in 2016. It divided the property into the 5 uses I had mentioned previously, and the tract map subdivided the lots into 22 distinct parcels. It also set aside 3.47 acres for a linear trail along lots 21 and 22. I'll get into this in the plan development permit, but these lots are also proposed for development with linear trails and landscaping. So the applicants are applying for a general plan amendment and rezone of the property to accommodate the proposed residential project and to bring the land use and zoning designations into conformance with the existing community health centers, office, and medical service uses. There are 2 plan development permits to phase in the Bataravia Place apartments. The commercial rezone is consistent, so just, I'm going to go back a little bit. This is the existing and proposed land use. Existing is on the left-hand side of the screen. The proposed is on the right. The commercial rezone is consistent with the planned development C2 use immediately to the south, which is the McDonald's, and east of the project site as well. CHC administrative office uses would not create a legal nonconformity. These are, again, planned to be better aligned with the uses on the property currently. Any future development would be subject to a separate plan development permit process on the CHC and Bradley Lands property, which is in the C2 shown here. So the apartments are, to accommodate the apartment project, the lots 1 and lot 4 of the Betaravia Plaza tract map are proposed to be rezoned to residential. So moving on to the residential project, this is the first plan development permit, the PD 2021-0006. This is a view of the project site, an aerial view close up. This is for lots 3 and 4. You'll notice that lot 22 runs along the north, east, and west sides of the project site. These are proposed to be planted by the project applicant. So Betaravia Place 1 apartments development includes 340 market rate apartments with 34 two-story and three-story buildings with a range of 1-bedroom to 3-bedroom units. 3 building types are proposed, and also community clubhouse is directly across the main entrance, the grand entrance at the intersection of Walker Avenue and Dan Blau Drive. There are 2 other entrances, one on the southern portion of the property and then one in the middle of Dan Blau Drive. An existing trail borders the eastern side of the property, as I mentioned previously. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's outlined in white along the railroad. And the additional multi-use trails I mentioned previously are also part of the Betaravia Plaza tract map. The project meets parking and landscape requirements, and I'll just move along to the proposed site floor plans and elevations. So the mixture of parking is proposed by single car garages and uncovered open spaces. This is the first of the 3 building types, 10 units and 8 single car garages. Entry is proposed through the opposite side of the garages, so you can see on the floor plan here, there'd be one entrance leading up to a landing and a mezzanine for the 4 units on the roof, or on the second floor. With all the buildings, they're Spanish-influenced architecture. All buildings you'll see on tonight's agenda, or this item, have vertical landscaping between the garages to soften the aesthetic, which is consistent with city requirements. This is a view of the 20-unit building. There are 3 entrances to the walk-up units. 2 of them are on the rear side, and then one is facing the driveway and the garages. 16 single-car garages are proposed with this building. This is the duplex carriage house with 10 single-car garages, so it picks up some of those parking spaces that weren't covered by the other 2 building types. 2 units are proposed on the second floor. And so the applicant is requesting a 5-foot height increase through the plan development permit process. Staff supports the height increase modification as it allows for roof articulation, tower elements, and is consistent with the architectural style of this type of building. Further, the apartment buildings are adequately set back from any nearby residences or the road on Carmen Lane to reduce the overall perceived massing of the building. So the city municipal code requires projects to provide 250 square feet of open area per unit. The applicant is requesting a modification to allow for a reduction for this project and is requesting 224 square feet of open space per dwelling instead. The Planning Commission has the discretion to approve modifications if findings can be made that the proposed modifications are consistent with the general plan and municipal code, In addition, the project is required to include superior design elements that mitigate or compensate for any potential impact of the proposed modifications on the surrounding area and are essential to the design of the project and have been minimized to the maximum extent possible. So staff has included findings to allow for approval of the modification. These findings state that the applicant's proposal to provide the residents with additional walkable landscape areas nearby with the linear trails and thereby enhancing the neighborhood's natural environment and visual resources. Further, the project provides several high-quality shared open space areas. You can see those in yellow on the screen for passive and active resident uses. Each unit is provided with its own balcony as well, which allows for private outdoor living amenities. So moving along to Betaravia Place 2, which is PD 2022-0011. These are lots 1 and 2, and then lot 21 is along the north there, separating the projects from all streets but Danblaw Drive here. I should mention that this is the westerly project, and the Betaravia Place 2 was on the east side of Western Avenue. Betaravia Place 2 is a townhome apartment project for rent. It's 103 market rate units. The apartments are distributed among 23 buildings with 3 building types, and they're spread between 4plexes and 5plexes. These apartment units are generally larger than those proposed for Betaravia Place 1 and are mostly 2-bedroom through 4-bedroom units, so they're a little larger. Similar amenities are proposed as well in the second phase, although the units are placed closer together in clusters and groups with the open space areas connecting with kind of backyards. You'll note that these buildings here along the trail and along Danblaw Drive are oriented towards the street with their open areas to provide some public-private connection. Excuse me. This project also meets the parking requirement. It actually exceeds it. It provides 34 additional spaces from the required 240 parking spaces. Parking is provided by 103 two-car garages. And the applicant provides an excess of site landscaping exceeding the 20% landscape requirement by 11%. It's 30. As a clarification to the staff report, I would like to clarify that each project has 3 vehicular driveways. I only mentioned the 3 on Betaravia Place 1, but there are actually 3 driveways on Betaravia Place 2 as well. Similar to, I covered that as well. This is one of the 4plex buildings. They're relatively similar. They're all share the Spanish influencing of Betaravia Place 1. And I'll just move through these other elevations. There is a connected garage here. It connects into the units, whereas Betaravia Place 1, they're just separate individual parking. Buildings here sit lower than the Betaravia Place 1. They are not asking for a modification to the 35-foot height requirement. The building heights here are 27 feet. Again, on Betaravia Place 1, they're proposing a 40-foot height, which is a 5-foot increase. This is the 5plex. It's very similar to the other designs. There's just one more unit attached. So environmental review was completed by the city via an addendum to the Betaravia Plaza final environmental impact report. No new significant environmental impacts or changes to the project scope were found, and no information has been introduced, which would require a new document. There's just been minor technical additions and changes to adequately address CEQA law. Required mitigation measures reduce potential impacts to less than significant, and no modifications are necessary to the EIR mitigation measures. A traffic study was also completed in the 2015 document, and staff has reviewed this, and no modifications are necessary. With mitigation, the traffic was acceptable for city standards. Additions to traffic signals to be installed with the project would actually raise the level of service to level of service A, I believe. So with that, staff has provided the commission with a memorandum, actually, with revised conditions of approval. These revisions clarify traffic mitigation development fees, as well as trash enclosure design and location for Battery Via Place 2. Public Works and Utilities Department staff have reviewed the solid waste plans and have accepted them, and the staff has provided the applicant with a copy of the updated permits with the conditions of approval. So with that, staff recommends by resolution that the Planning Commission take the following actions. These are all going to be recommendations to the City Council. By resolution, recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to approve an addendum to the Environmental Impact Report, EIR, prepared for the Batteravia Plaza project. By resolution, recommend that the City Council approve the General Plan Land Use Map Amendment and Zone Change, GPZ 2021-2. And by motion, recommend that the City Council approve Plan Development Permit PD 2021-6, included in the staff memorandum dated December 7th, 2022, which is on your dais tonight. And by motion, recommend that the City Council approve Plan Development Permit 2022-11, included in the staff memorandum dated December 7th, 2022. Staff is available for questions, and the applicant is in the room as well, and they can provide any information the commission desires.
Thank you very much, Carol. Before we move forward, disclosure of any ex parte commissioner communications with the applicant?
I talked to Lori tomorrow about this project, very briefly. Thank you.
Any others? And none from me. So why don't we go ahead and hear from the applicant?
My name is Alex Seamus. I live at 422 St. Andrews Way in Santa Maria. I'm legal counsel for Bradley Land Company. I'm simply here to say that we support all aspects of the project, including those that have to do with the apartment developer, and I'll be happy to try and answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Thank you. Is that the applicant?
So there are multiple applicants for this application. There are actually three, CHC, Bradley Land Company, and MBK Rental Living. So
thank you.
MBK Rental Living is the applicant for the apartments.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and hear from whoever wants to come up to bat next?
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Ben Ortega with MBK. Pleasure to be here this evening. Just want a quick presentation. We brought this item before you about a month ago in an early special study session in the library, and comments were taken to heart. We've updated a few little features, and we have some slides if you have any additional questions, which Carol can present to you. But I want to introduce our team here is also tonight, our architect from San Diego, Eric Van Wetjel. Eric, you want to raise your hand at least? He's our design architect. He also designed our project. This is our second project in the city of Santa Maria. He designed the project called Azure, there behind Costco, off of the freeway. Also with us is Sean Nagawa, our landscape architect with Plein Air, and our planning consultants, Lori and Peter with UPC, and members from my company, Ron Mertzel, VP of Development, and Nico Rallis, our development associate. These are our team that have been working on the project, and will continue to be working on the project from now until completion. MBK this is our second project. We're based out of Irvine, California. We've wanting to be a long-term partner in the city of Santa Maria. Glad to be back and hope to do more work here. I wanted to thank staff for working with us over the last 6 months, along with the addendum on the EIR. Took a lot of time and effort, and we think they've done an excellent job in reviewing the project and making it what it is today. We are asking for a couple of very minor modifications to the code or the ordinance. On our first project, we did Azure, we did obtain approval of I think it was a 45-foot height approval, and we're only asking just under 40. Actually, we're saying 40, rounding it up is about 38 feet, but we're saying 40 to give us a little elbow room. And that's primarily to screen the mechanical equipment up on the roof, as well as allowed in the code for architectural features such as tower elements, which Carol already touched on. In terms of the open space, overall, the project is an east and west, or 1 and 2. It's really one project, and when you combine them together, we're about 12,000 square feet over the code requirement, equating to 277 square feet of open space per unit versus the 250 minimum required by code. But when you bifurcate the site and you separate it left and right, the project on the right, the apartment site, falls short by about 8,800 square feet. That's why, because they're two separate applications, you see that, and two resolutions, why it's being identified as a shortfall on the project on the right. But as an aggregated development, it's actually 12,000 square feet over code. We think the project is consistent with the city's goals and policies, and we're hoping you as a commission will agree as well and recommend approval to the city council. We're in support of staff's recommended conditions of approval, and we're basically here tonight to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by the commissioners?
Thank you, Chair. I don't actually have a question, but Mr. Ortega, the 40-foot height also is to allow for 9-foot ceilings inside of the units themselves, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, which creates a much nicer living environment.
Yes, sir.
And I don't believe when we were at the study session, did you guys bring up the walk park?
At the special study, yes, we did. The dog park, you mean?
No, the walking park, because that takes into a lot of, I mean, we got 3.47 acres in there of open space that I don't think, I was questioning you on the open space, and I don't think that was brought into anyone's attention on the study session.
Yeah, the perimeter walking park, you're saying? The
Yep.
linear park?
The linear park is going to be accessed for all residents, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. I didn't hear anything about the dog park tonight. Is that still?
Yes, sir. It's still there. That's a 33,000 square foot gift to the city that we're proposing to develop in the eyebrow, that semi-arc on the northern section in green.
Is the rest of that green area open space also?
That is city open space, but we're planning to only to do within that area there, the half park.
What will the rest of the area look like?
We'll be working with the Parks Department, see what they plan
So
to
we
do
will
there.
have some, a pretty good sized open space down there too?
Ultimately, yes, sir.
Nice. Thank you.
Gentlemen? Additional question? And I don't need it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's see, let's open the meeting to the public. Is there any written communication? I don't believe so. No? Okay, then public comments. I had 2 slips, but it was from the applicants. So is there anybody?
For those attending on Zoom, this would be your opportunity if you'd like to speak on this item. If you would please use the raise hand icon if you would like to speak. Chair, members of the commission, there are no attendees on Zoom wishing to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. And I asked already if the commissioners if they had any other questions, so hearing none, let's go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for any discussions that they care to have or any resolutions and or motions. Gentlemen? I guess without Maribel, nobody knows how to make a resolution, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, my only real concern, I know we need the housing, I just, traffic for me, and the exit onto eastbound Betaravia. I know there was an updated traffic study, and, you know, we always look at those traffic studies, and they never really seem to reflect what truly happens at those peak hours, or especially this one when you're changing the zoning from community commercial or was it PDCC to R3? And it just, these lots are the furthest to the east. They're all going to come to Western to exit, to go eastbound on Betaravia. You can't come out on Dan Blau Way and head south onto Blosser. You can only take a right. I'm just concerned about traffic. I really am. That's what's making my decision tough on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I kind of echo that a little bit as well, just because, there's a lot of units going in here. And I did miss the study session, unfortunately, so maybe there was some discussion about circulation and traffic. The layout doesn't seem like it really changed from the original design. And reading the transportation section of the amendment, it looks like the conclusion is that there really wasn't much of a difference. Looked like it was about the same, and maybe VMT, actually reduced. Mark, I think that's what it was saying, that it was actually a reduction in VMT with this new configuration. But nevertheless, I think logistically, it is going to be difficult. And maybe I do have a question, Mark, or staff. So the exit to Blosser is right in, right out only, but there will be emergency access for right, left, both directions?
Yeah, Commissioner Blanco, that is correct. On Dan Blau Drive and Blosser Road intersection, for the standard passenger vehicle, you'd be required to turn right in, right out onto Dan Blau Drive to Blosser Road. There is a mountable curb for emergency vehicles, given that the police station is located at Betaravia Road, and they requested access to be able to drive over that median in the case they needed to make a left at that location. There's a similar improvement in front of the police station that allows them to leave on Betaravia Road and head east.
And so on Betaravia, at the intersections to Betaravia, they have full access, right, left, any direction?
At the intersection of Western, they do have full access. There would be a signalized intersection for Betaravia and Western. At the Walker intersection, it is right in, right out only.
Okay. It's, so there, if you wanted to go that way and go eastbound, you'd have to go make a U-turn at Western.
Commissioner Blanco, that's correct. Either you would turn, if you're heading southbound on Walker, you could make a U-turn on Betaravia, you could turn left and go down to McCoy, or if you were heading northbound on Walker, go over to Western and use the signal to turn left on the Betaravia.
And that's the same configuration it's always been for circulation?
That is correct. When the tentative track map was conditioned and was brought to the commission, this is the layout that was provided. The Walker and Oakley intersections, it does not, or those roads were offset and were not required to intersect. And I believe the tentative track map conditions required the medians, raised medians to preclude left turn access.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Seifert?
Thank you, Chair. Mark, it looks to me like we're going to have access, if we go off Western to Carmen, and then over Carmen to Blosser, and that's a signalized intersection?
Commissioner Seifert, that is correct.
And that doesn't seem to be too big of a stretch, as far as if we were living in there to go up to Western versus trying to get on, as Commissioner Lopez is concerned, if exiting on Dan Blau left is not an option, but very easily you could go east to Western, down Western, onto Carmen, and then out, and then
Left
east,
onto Blosser.
north, south, either way. I had a signal.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it is, it's the biggest subdivision I've sat on. There's a lot of homes, a lot of people jammed in there, but the 9-foot ceiling heights are nice. That really helps when you're in a situation like that. The open space is a big concern of mine, but that lineal park, that was something that Dan advocated 4 years ago, and it's very necessary. I like that it's included. And then the park and the dog park are really going to be necessary. What did we decide? We don't have a park anywhere near here, right?
Commissioner Seifert, I believe the nearest park would be located north of Jimenez Elementary. It's about a quarter mile north of the Carmen and Western intersection.
Yeah, because this is going to be a lot of people. So we really want them to have a place. The project looks good, the architecture, landscaping. I don't have a problem with the rezone. I think, as I've always stated on any new development that we have, unfortunately, traffic is always a nightmare, as you saw with our neighbors just earlier. They're very concerned about more traffic on Santa Maria Way, as they should be. We don't live in we're not in Irvine. And I've been to Irvine, I've worked in Irvine, and I know that it's a much different environment. We're a little bit smaller and a little bit less traffic, and we're changing rapidly, obviously. And then with the state requirements, there's not a lot we can do about a lot of the subdivisions. I think it's a good project. We've talked about it. We've gone to study sessions. It's been modified. I don't have an issue with it, and I think the traffic will take care of itself. We have it's going to be a lot of people, and then when the commercial aspect gets going, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all works out. But unfortunately, with the increase in homes that's necessary, there's not a lot we can do. So other than that, let me just check my notes here real quick. Just as a note, it really surprises me that on a project this size that's going to impact our community in untold ways with the traffic and the residences, that we have absolutely no speakers, and nobody showed up. Nobody came on Zoom, whereas we had a small 49 units, 51 units, whatever it was, and we had a whole room full. So that still concerns me. I do wish people would show up and not leave it just to us to decide these situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Seifert. Commissioner Lopez, is there something that you have in mind that might mitigate the traffic issues that you're concerned with?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I thought about that I brought up in study session was the crossing at Carmen. Because I think, I don't know, Mark, maybe you can speak on it, that I know it's been, over 10 years since that was originally proposed for the project to the north. But is there any way something could happen there?
Commissioner Lopez, I don't think it'd be necessarily appropriate to condition this project with that crossing. It is a desired crossing with the Public Works Department and with the city in general, both fire department for public works access in terms of circulation, both with pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicular access. It would lessen the amount of vehicles both on Battles and Betaravia, as those are the two nearest closest crossings to Carmen Lane. The main issue is we have not been able, we're at an impasse with the CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission, where the crossing is too close in physical proximity to Betaravia Road and Battles Road. We're required to have a grade separated crossing, so the road would either need to go above or below the railroad.
That was the only thing at least for me, that would make sense, but,
But as Mark said, probably not to put that on this development. Just something we have to work towards, I guess, in the future. Yes? No?
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. With that being said, do we have, anybody want to push forward any resolutions or motions?
I can give it a shot, Chair.
Yes, sir.
By resolution, we recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to approve amendment to the Environmental Impact Report prepared for the Betaravia Plaza project.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Kathleen?
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez? Chair Dickerson?
Aye.
By resolution, we recommend that the City Council approve the general planned land use map amendment and zone change, GPZ 2021-0002.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Kathleen?
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Abstain.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye.
By motion, recommend that the City Council approve Plan Development Permit PD 2021-0006, included in the staff memorandum dated December 7th, 2022.
Second.
Kathleen?
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Abstain.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye.
By motion, recommend that the City Council approve the Plan Development Permit, PD 2022-0011, included in the staff memorandum dated December 7th, 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Abstain.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye. Thank you very much. Good luck with it.
Good luck.
We'll give folks just a moment or two to make their way. Yeah? Yeah. Oral reports from staff, planning commissioner.
Hey, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So for an update, I just have a couple of items. I sent an email to you all today just notifying you of a opportunity for a training if you're interested. It's February 17th, and it's a planning commissioner training that's being put on by the Institute of Local Governments. And so I thought that'd be a good opportunity. That particular training is for Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura County and city jurisdictions.
Is it in person or is it a Zoom thing?
You know, when I looked at the website, it didn't state that yet. But it did say that if you're interested, you could fill out, there was a page where you could put in your information, and it said that they would respond with additional information for you. So, yeah, the location and whether.
The secret location.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
And then I just wanted to go over our schedule. So this is the last hearing of this year. We do have a study session scheduled tomorrow at 1:30 at Shepherd Hall, and that's to go over the draft housing element. We did release the draft housing element for a 30-day review. It was about a week ago Monday. So we're going to go over some of the programs and policies of that draft housing element with you tomorrow. And then looking ahead, so December 21st and 22nd, we had canceled those meetings just due to a lack of quorum. And then we also do not have any items scheduled for January 4th hearing or January 5th study session, so we'd like to cancel those meetings as well. And so that means that the next time we would be meeting after tomorrow would be January 18th for a hearing. And that concludes my update for tonight. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Anything from commissioners? Any other staff?
I'd just like to say that our calendars that populate themselves on our phone do not show today as Pearl Harbor Day. I find that kind of crazy.
That's
That's
insane, you're right.
We have a lot of things that populate on our calendars, but Pearl Harbor Day didn't. And I just I don't understand why that is, so anybody up there in the cloud that can change that? Thank you.
All right, with that upbeat note, we're done. It's always good to bring up Pearl Harbor Day, but I agree.